So today, the last in our series on workplace skills is communications. And we've been doing quite a bit of that, communicating the different aspects to everyone about the various workplace skills that we have available to us and helping hopefully everybody learn a little bit more about how to better implement those skills on their job. Excuse me. Today, my name is Dee Reinhardt. I will be your guide for our session on communications, and joining us this afternoon are Natasha Telger, Chelsea Jones, Lacey Pollock, the wonderful Three Musketeers of Illinois WorkNet. I really appreciate all of the assistance they've given me through this whole series. In this session, we're going to be talking about communications. And there's two types of communication, verbal and nonverbal. So we're going to investigate the aspects of all of those items. George Bernard Shaw said the single biggest problem with communication is the illusion that it has taken place. In some situations, what you say may not actually be understood. So you need to be sure that what you are saying to the people with whom you work is being understood thoroughly and completely. One of the biggest skills is listening. Raise your hand if you've ever worked at a retail store. Okay, there's a few of you. What I'd like to do is I'd like to bring in our first polling questions, and I would like for you to take a look based on this scenario. You are at a local clothing store, and a customer comes in and tries to return something but does not have the receipt. You tell her she cannot return it, and she started yelling and demanding her money back. What do you do? And you can pick more than one answer. All right, looks like we've got some answers going on. All right, we're going to give you just a couple of more seconds because there were quite a few answers there that we needed to take a look at. All right, we're going to close the polls in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thanks, everybody, for your answers. So listening is your ability to receive, attend to, interpret, understand, evaluate, and respond to verbal messages and other cues. You're able to pick out important information in verbal messages. You accurately recall and summarize information, and you're able to understand complex instructions. You're able to appreciate feelings and concerns of verbal messages. With two-way communication, you practice meaningful communication. You speak clearly, you pay close attention, you seek to understand others, you listen attentively, and you clarify information. You also attend to nonverbal cues and respond appropriately. So, all right, we got another raise your hand situation here. Who remembers the telephone game where you listen and repeat until it goes around the circle? All right. Do they still play that? I'm not sure. Sometimes you can get some pretty far out returning messages. Being able to communicate in any field is about understanding what your customer wants or needs and what you need from them. If you would like to assess your listening skills, check out this McGraw-Hill self-assessment, and Lacey's going to put that in the chat pod for me. I actually did this, and when I was reading the answers back, I was kind of surprised at myself because I'm not as good a listener as I thought I was. But what they assess you on is avoiding interruption, postponing evaluation, showing interest, maintaining interest, and organizing information. It took me about 3 minutes to take that assessment and about 10 minutes to read the results. So if you really want to find out how good of a listener you really are, take a look at that tool. So when you're speaking means that you participate in group or team discussions. You engage in conversations with coworkers, supervisors, and clients. You can express or present information to individuals or groups, taking into account the audience and the nature of the information. How technical is it, or how controversial is it? You speak clearly and confidently. You provide information in an organized and logical manner. You speak using common English conventions, including proper grammar, tone, pace. You track the audience's responses, and you react appropriately to those responses. You effectively use eye contact and nonverbal expression. And you can have a two-way conversation building on information that you obtained during that conversation. Something that came to mind as I was investigating this was Rajesh from the Big Bang Theory television show, who can't talk to women at all unless he's had a cocktail. I just think that's pretty interesting, and he's a scientist. Now, if you're using persuasion or influence, that means that you have the ability to influence others. You can persuasively present thoughts and ideas, and you gain commitment and ensure support for proposed ideas. You offer support for your own ideas with data and research versus just personal opinion. If you are a skilled conversationalist, you can successfully engage others in brainstorming and conflict resolution. You can use communication constructively to promote goals and not to gossip or cause harm. You exhibit public relations skills to increase internal and external customer-client satisfaction. And you use your tone of voice with a projection of warmth, confidence, or delight. Now, I speak publicly all the time. I never stop getting nervous before I'm about to do a presentation. But there are a few things that I have changed over time to help my presentations go more smoothly. So some of the tips are actually included in this article about building your management skills. So one of the things that you do is you plan appropriately. And when I was in junior high, I remember that one of my teachers gave the class this alliteration, and if Chelsea or Lacey can add this and the link to the chat pod, I'd appreciate it. But this alliteration is called the 9 Ps, and it goes like this. Prior proper planning prevents poor performance at peak panic periods. I'll repeat that. Prior proper planning prevents poor performance at peak panic periods. I just love that because, and I loved it so much, I've remembered it since like 8th grade. So when you plan your communication, it helps you think on your feet and be able to answer last-minute questions. Remember that not all public speaking will be scheduled. You can make good impromptu speeches by having ideas and mini speeches pre-prepared. It also helps to have a good, thorough understanding of what's going on in your organization and your industry. Now, one thing that you need to do if you have a challenge with speaking is practice. And you need to speak in front of people to be able to speak well. So if you want more practice, you might want to join a group like Toastmasters. You also want to engage with your audience. You want to ask leading questions, speak with purpose, and slow down. Don't just read your items verbatim. Try to work from keywords on a cue card or memorize. Pay attention to your body language. Stand up straight. How many of you just sat up really straight in your chairs just now? Look people in the eyes. Smile. Don't lean on one leg or the podium, and do not cross your arms in front of your chest to close yourself off to the audience. Think positively. Tell yourself that you'll do well. Use positive reinforcement or affirmations before you begin. Cope with your nerves. Deep breathing slows down your heart rate and helps you feel more relaxed. Even if it is a large crowd, focus on one face at a time. Afterward, if you have the ability to watch recordings, see if there's something upon which you might improve. If you speak well in public, it can help you get a job or a promotion. It can help raise awareness for your team or organization, and you can educate others. The more you push yourself to speak in front of others, the better you'll become, and the more confidence you'll have. One of the other tools that we need to talk about today is phone etiquette. Now, this is incredibly important because you cannot see the other person. You have to be especially careful about how you handle a phone conversation, especially with somebody new who might not know your personality quirks. So in phone etiquette, I'd like for you to think about these things. This topic depends upon the type of customer service you're doing. If you're in a call center, there are guidelines that you must adhere to. If you're working at a carry-out pizza place, your customer service will depend upon you getting the order correct and providing the right cost and delivery or pickup time to the customer. In general, you need to make sure that you're being specific with these things: your diction and your tone. People need to understand you. Not everyone will speak the same language, so you may need to speak more slowly or more clearly, and you may need to repeat yourself. You may need to ask a caller to repeat themselves. So just because you are not speaking face-to-face, your tone is how someone will interpret your words. Unless you know someone personally, unless you know someone personally, you should maintain a neutral or positive tone. Politeness. Ask someone if they are able to hold. Don't just put them on hold. If you don't know the answer to a question or have to reference something out of the reach of the phone, ask someone if they have the time to hold. If not, ask for their number and give them a time frame when you'll return a call to them. And then call them back. The golden rule applies here. Treat others as you want to be treated. If you need to transfer a caller, know how to complete the task. Let the caller know that you're making a transfer, and if possible, stay with the call until someone answers. And if not, give them the number just in case the call drops. Listening skills. Notice the theme here? It's difficult to hear what someone is saying if you're speaking at the same time. It's compounded when you're using a telephone for that conversation. Employ the active listening skills. Wait until someone is finished speaking before you begin. And if you'd like to learn more about proper phone etiquette, check out this link from Voice Nation. And I think Chelsea's going to put that back into the chat pod for me. Did we miss something? What do I need to repeat? Can somebody put that in a chat for me? Diction and tone. Okay. We can talk about people need to understand you with the diction and tone. Not everybody's going to speak the same language, so you may need to speak more slowly or more clearly, and you may need to repeat yourself. Or you may need to ask the caller to repeat themselves. And just because you're not speaking face-to-face, your tone is so much more important about how people will interpret your words. Unless you know someone personally, you need to maintain a neutral and positive tone of voice. Let's go on to our next slide. about body language. Eye contact. You need to maintain eye contact. When you're speaking with someone, smile when you're conversing with others. Use expressions that show they are emotionally present and filled with interest. Maintain good posture. Use listening cues or other gestures such as nodding to make sure that you're engaged. Use appropriate handshakes or pats on the backs or shoulders, but realize that in some work environments or certain cultures, touch is not appropriate. The intensity of the communication should not be over the top or melodramatic unless you are publicly speaking and trying to make a point. Timing is supposed to be an easy flow of information back and forth. Try not to rush things. And then with sounds, use appropriate ones to indicate that you are attending to the other person. Maybe you want to do ah, or or oh. Use it along with your eye and facial gestures and communicate understanding and emotional connection. Those sounds can convey interest, understanding, and compassion. And be aware of space. Stand on the appropriate distance from the other person, and various cultures have different space perceptions. Consider the context of the situation because some situations are more formal than others. There's a help guide here for nonverbal communications as well that says it's not always what you say, it's how you are saying it with all the nonverbal cues that are listed on this slide. You may be familiar with the advice on how to sit a certain way, make your fingers point at each other, or shake hands just so in order to appear confident or assert dominance. But the truth is those tricks just don't work unless you are truly confident and in charge. It's because you can't control all the other signals you're constantly sending off about what you're really thinking and feeling. And the harder you try, the more unnatural your signals are likely to come across. This quote is attributed to many people, but the quote is, "Eyes are the window to the soul." This rings very true with being able to gain clues as to what someone is saying to you. All right, we have another scenario to take a look at, and another lot of answers here. When working in the healthcare field, you have to communicate with many different groups of people. You have to be able to effectively communicate with patients, doctors, surgeons, and more. What communication tips would you give to a new employee in the healthcare industry? All right, we've got some answers going on. All right, we're going to give it a couple more seconds here. 5, 4, 3, 2. Thank you very much for your answers. Written communications are extremely important. If you're able to use technology properly with written communications, you are able to interact and collaborate with peers or others by employing a variety of digital environments and media in order to complete workplace projects. You can communicate information and ideas effectively to multiple audiences using a variety of media and formats. You're able to contribute to project teams to produce original works or solve problems. With reading comprehension, you're able to select and employ appropriate reading and communication strategies to learn and use technical concepts and vocabulary in practice. Demonstrate use of the concepts, strategies, and systems by obtaining and conveying ideas and information to enhance the communication within your workplace. You can locate, organize, and reference written information from various sources to communicate with coworkers and clients and participants. You can evaluate and use information resources to accomplish specific occupational tasks. You're able to use correct grammar, punctuation, and terminology to write and edit documents. You can develop formal and informal presentations, and you can use appropriate media to engage and inform audiences. You're able to develop and interpret tables, charts, and figures to support written and oral communications. These days, you can do almost anything you need to do from a smartphone. Raise your hand if you use your smartphone to talk, text, email, Facebook, chat, or even video chat. Oh yeah, there's a lot of people using a lot of different tools on their phone to do more than just talk. What we also need to do is think about how we inform. There's a world of information at our fingertips. And so how we gather and disseminate information is based upon our ability to continually gather data from diverse sources to determine what information employees need to perform their work. You're also able to disseminate information to employees in a timely, efficient manner. When you're able to keep your employees informed, you do that through a variety of means, including productive and informative group and individual meetings and targeted written communications. You are able to highlight important information in communications, and you avoid flooding employees with irrelevant information. When you are updating information, you want to be able to monitor internal and external environments to determine if additional information is required for employees to perform tasks. You want to be able to inform employees when changes occur that affect them and distribute updated information when necessary. You should provide information to peers and subordinates in a timely way that maintains cooperative relationships among people. Raise your hand. Have you ever heard the phrase, information is power? All right, we've got a few people who have heard that. What that means is the one who has the information has power over the person who needs that information. Withholding information from someone so that they can do their job properly, so that they're unable to do their job properly, is just wrong. It actually could be considered a form of bullying. With a world of information in the palm of your hand, you can do almost anything. But if you don't know what you don't know, it can make your career take a downturn. I often find that oversharing can be a burden as well. But it's better to share news and information and not need it than to need it and not have it. One resource that we use is from the Management Study Guide, and it's about overcoming barriers. And here's a couple of suggestions that they have listed. You can eliminate differences in perception, what you understand versus what they want you to understand. Use simple language. Avoid ambiguous words and jargon. Reduce and eliminate noise levels. Noise is the main communication barrier which must be overcome on a priority basis. Active listening. There's a difference between listening and hearing. By asking questions, the speaker can ensure whether his or her message is understood or not by the receiver in the same terms as intended by the speaker. Your emotional state. During communication, one should make effective use of body language to avoid misinterpretation. For example, if the conveyor of the message is in a bad mood, then the receiver might think that the information being delivered is not good news. give constructive feedback. The contents of your feedback may be negative, but it should be delivered constructively. Proper media selection. The managers should properly select the medium of communication. Simple messages should be conveyed orally, like face-to-face interactions or meetings. Use of written means of communication should be encouraged by delivering complex messages. For significant messages, reminders can be given by using written means of communication such as memos or notices. I've just been informed that I have a bad link in the presentation. I will get the right one at the end and post it in the chat pod. Clarifying roles and objectives. Explaining job duties means if you're able to do that well, it means that you can clearly explain job duties, responsibilities, and priorities. You're able to inform employees of the work for which they will be responsible and help them establish priorities. Check to ensure that employees understand duties and responsibilities. When you're instructing, you're able to provide instruction on how to accomplish an assignment. You want to explain correctly and incorrect ways to accomplish that task. You want to provide timely and effective feedback about whether a task is being performed correctly. When you're setting performance goals, you're able to help employees set them. In consultation with employees, you set goals that are clear, specific, and attainable. You want to inform employees of deadlines for goal attainment. And when you link tasks to organizational objectives, you're able to explain relationships between individual work tasks and overall organizational objectives. You want to continually rethink job duties and responsibilities as organizational objectives shift. And you want to communicate new roles and responsibilities to employees as appropriate. Knowing the 5 W's makes things easier for everyone. Do we know what the 5 W's are? Who, what, where, when, why, and let's just throw in how just to be there. So how does clarifying work roles actually help? All right. We have some answers going on. All right, we're going to give it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you for your answers. Oh, and we've got another poll here. We'll just get you all polled out here, folks. How can you help employees reach their goals? All right, we're going to give it 5, 4, 3, 2. Thank you for your answers. When it all boils down to the bottom, how well you communicate determines the success or failure of your team, project, or even the company. You can have brilliant ideas, but if you can't get them across, your ideas won't get you anywhere. Lee Iacocca said that. I think he's made a few dollars in his life based on brilliant ideas. So the things that we want to remember today are that listening involves being able to actively listen, not just hear. to understand your customers' wants or needs and being able to deliver. Speaking is not just the words, but how you say what you say. And body language encompasses everything else happening besides what is actually being spoken, and it actually tells more than the words themselves. Written words require the most professionalism, as there are no other indicators about the intent behind the words. So that's our presentation today. If you would like to see the remainder of the webinars in the series, if you can post in the chat pod, Chelsea, where they'll be able to find all of the recordings. We also have a LinkedIn group where you can participate in discussions, and if you could post that link, I would appreciate that as well. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to put myself on mute. I'm going to find the missing link and post that in the chat pod. So while we're waiting for that, if you would like to take a look at our closing polling questions, take a moment to answer those for me, I would appreciate it. And I'd like to thank everybody for participating today. I really appreciate the time that you've taken, and I hope that you've been able to pick up a couple of nuggets through the course of this series. We will have them all posted with our work skills wheel, and I appreciate your time. And I'd also like to thank Chelsea, Lacey, and Natasha for all of their assistance on this series as well. Have a great afternoon, everybody.